That's correct. That's correct. That's correct. That's correct.
Play the radio. Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night. The phone. Make sure the kids hear word.
Everybody saw Ben gargle. How's it going, everybody?
Hold on, man. Come on.
Shout out to the Curls, always. I'd say go see one of their live shows. Don't think one of those is happening there for a while. But shout out to our good friends, the Curls. Check out their music. Support the Curls. Go online. TheCurls. For those, I don't know, may have needed the help there. How's it going, everybody? Yes, we're live at the Chicago Sun-Times studio. All right. Everybody on the live stream chat, looks like you can hear us. A great show so far, says Jeff. We've just played music and said hi.
Hey, man, it's the basics that count in this business. We're here. A lot of people said, are you going to be there? You going to show up? Yeah, we're here.
Yeah.
You think we're going to let a little pandemic that's got the world terrified scare us away from our podcast? No way.
Oh, you sound mighty brave on this show, Ben.
I'm scared. Remember, this hand is steady, but I shoot with this one. Sorry.
All right, let's get going here. Your Ben Joravsky show for Tuesday, March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day, by the way. It's just moments.
Election Day.
But before we get into that, we got to thank the following unions for jumping on board and sponsoring this program. Unions like the International Association of Machinists in Aerospace, not Aerosmith Workers, Local 126 in District 8.
That's correct.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9 are sponsors.
That's correct.
As well as the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150.
That's correct.
Giant thank you to those unions for jumping on board and sponsoring this program. And, of course, today's Ben Joravsky show for St. Patrick's Day, Election Day, is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. All right, I think everybody listening right now has just been waiting days and days for a song of the day. And Ben and I had a pre-show meeting.
Oh,
He gave me a ride to the studio because I'm not riding that damn train. He said, we're going to do 2 for Tuesday.
Oh.
Today is 2 for Tuesday. So we're going to do,
Tuesday.
Ben's going to give us 2 songs of the day.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Well, you came up with it. Yo, D, man, let's do 2 for Tuesday.
Okay.
Well, here it is.
Habada. All right, song number 1. This is an obvious one. I've been thinking about this all day. This shows how trendy and cool I am. Locked up, won't let me out. Locked up. You know that song, D?
No.
And then this song. Gene, take it easy. Gene, because that's how I should be. Take it easy, everybody. We're locked up, but take it easy. Do you know that song? Either one.
No.
You didn't know Take It Easy? Or
Oh, I know Take It Easy. I know Take It Easy. Yeah,
10 trivia points. Who sings Take It Easy?
Is that, that's not Steve Miller Band, is it?
No, but you're in the ballpark because it's one of J.B. Pritzker's favorite.
Oh, it's the Eagles.
That is correct.
I get my Steve Millers and Eagles mixed
You
up.
get your
know?
J.B. Pritzker favorite bands mixed up. Is what you.
The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. Oh my! Hold on, maybe not.
that?
Hold on, hang tight. Oh,
Locked
rough day,
up,
rough day.
don't let me out.
Wasn't your cue to start singing again,
sorry,
by the
man.
way. All right, your Ben Joravsky Show starts now. I turned your mic down. It is Tuesday, March 17th, and live from the freshly clean Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, our Chicago Reader colleague Maya Dukmasova will join us over the phone. Our good friend Marc Sims returns over the phone, and it's the Ben Joravsky Show live debut of Henry Davis Jr. over the phone. And now your host, not over the phone. He's right here. Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this live from the shelter Tuesday, and here's why. Great weekend. You have a great weekend, D?
No,
Yeah.
none of us had a great weekend.
Yeah, even I can't pretend I had a great... Man, this weekend sucked, everybody. I won't lie to you, okay? We were all locked up. That's why I sang that song. It's Locked Up. I believe the singer's name, it's a rap. Akon. You ever heard of Akon, D?
Yes.
Okay, well, it's called Locked Up, and for the longest... I only know about it because I played it at the bowling alley, and I liked it. I was like, oh, this sounds good. And for the longest time, I thought they were saying doctor. I thought the guy was saying that. So if someone come on, I'd be walking around going, doctor, don't let me out. And then the young ones, Ben, that would be, it's not doctor, it's locked up. So, but it's appropriate because we're essentially locked up in the song. He's locked up in jail, but of course we've been locked in our homes. And the weekend was not a good weekend, everybody. We all know we're putting up, doing the best we can. The coronavirus outbreak got everybody terrified. I'm scared. I'm wiping everything down. My wife said, okay, you're going to the studio today. You got to wipe everything down. And she just went straight to Dennis because she knew Dennis was the responsible one. And the young man from Alton really did a great job. This whole place, like coronavirus germs are running. Oh, no, here comes Dennis. There's no wonder they call him the doctor. I said, there goes one right now.
Well, if we've learned anything from this program, is that our host, Ben Joravsky, is very old. I got to look out for this guy. All right? I wiped his chair down, his microphone. I got you. Oh, hey, can you put Harold Washington up, please?
Did you wipe Harold Washington?
No, I'll wipe that
Hold
right
on,
now.
watch this. This is how you do it.
That's not how you do it. Oh, there we
you
go.
go.
Nice.
There,
That is how you
there.
do it. Good job.
A little respect for the greatest mayor the city of Chicago ever had, the greatest politician of the, I would say, the post-World War II era, the great Harold Washington.
That's correct.
Thank you. Robert Mueller knows who the greatest mayor the city of Chicago has ever had, Harold Washington. Come on, folks. It's not that the competition was that great. Anyway, what did I do? I watched Spies in Disguise, one of the dumbest movies of all time. I thought, you know what I'm going to do? It's such a somber, scary time. I'm going to watch a frivolous, funny movie. So I got this animated flick, Will Smith. Oh, my God, people, it was horrible. I do not urge anybody to watch it. Got it out of Redbox.
Walk, don't run?
No. Crawl, don't walk.
Oh, okay.
And by the way, I say this, I'm going to throw this out there. Usually when I talk about how I still watch movies and DVDs, all the people of the hipster millennial persuasion are like, oh God. Oh, no, seriously, you don't. Oh God. And then they text each other and stuff. Guess who was lined up at the Jewel? all these hipsters. I'm like, oh, isn't this interesting? A little hipster millennial. Oh, don't talk to me. That's something. People, like, they're not really in a talkative mood at the Jewel these days. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, it's like cutthroat in that Jewel. You know, everybody's trying to get that bread. If you notice that the bread is going fast, D, like, people are really stuck. Why are you stockpiling on bread? That's kind of a weird thing to stockpile. But whatever, they're stockpiling bread. So they're not really talkative in the red box line. I've noticed that, by the way, in the past. I guess kind of like think about it. Like, I walk up to someone in the red box line. This, by the way, for millennials who don't know what it is, red box is literally a red box in like a Jewel, which is a grocery store. And
Did you miss us, guys? We've been gone all weekend.
I worry about my millennials.
Learning what a red box is today, everybody.
And a Jewel. I
Yeah.
take nothing for granted. So anyway, you still get the DVDs out of them, and you know, I'm always surprised at how many millennials are actually using the red box. But they don't really like it when some old guy walks up to them. I saw that movie. Okay, it's not that good.
I've seen that movie.
Anyway, so at the red box line, I got Spies in Disguise. Terrible movie, but you know what? I have a confession to make. Can't believe I liked it as much as I did. Dude.
Really? You enjoyed it?
God, I'm embarrassed. to
You're a
say
sucker
it.
for that Will Smith.
I do love Will Smith. Then I watched a whole bunch of Larry David. Love Larry David. You know, the world could be coming to an end, but Larry David's got his own problems he's dealing with.
Oh, and you watch those DVDs I got you?
No, I still am on season 1.
Oh,
I don't think I'm
okay.
finished with
Yeah.
season 1. I saw the one where Larry David, I can't believe they went this way. Did you see the one with the obituary? Mm-hmm. Where the aunt, he misspelled aunt.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of, well, whatever.
Please
anyway.
watch your language.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it, but he misspelled it, and all trouble broke loose. That was 20 years ago that he wrote that.
I got him season 5, guys, before it was one of the most disgusting ideas ever at the moment. I went to Goodwill and I bought Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah, no,
season
good.
5 for Ben.
I think Goodwill is
like $4.
is booming, and people were still going to Goodwill.
Oh.
Anyway, that's what I did. I went to the Jewel. Spent a lot of time at the Jewel. Very edgy, very nerve-wracking experience. People like, don't get too close to me. Stay away from me. And then this like weird hoarding going on. So like obviously the aisle with all the cleansing goods and stuff gone. You know, but then I'm like buying stuff like weird stuff that I think has like remotely soaps, like shaving cream. You can still get shaving cream. Couldn't shaving cream help thee? If like you sprayed this with shaving cream, wouldn't that like kill a germ? No. Anyway, I spent a lot of time watching our president. I think everybody, I know I'm in lefty land here. This guy is the most pathetic president the United States has ever had. I'm telling you that. Well, I just have to say in my lifetime, because I don't know how bad they were before I was born. Yesterday was one of those things where Donald Trump was trying to be serious and somber. I guess apparently the pollsters got to him and told him, boss, you're in a heap of trouble. And so, he's...
Habita.
So he's trying to be all somber and serious, and half the time, no, he's lost all credibility with at least half the country. And folks, all my Trump listeners out there, I know you believe anything he tells you, even if it contradicts what he told you the day before. You guys are so clueless and pathetic. You're worse than Chicago voters, who are pretty clueless and pathetic. But that performance yesterday had to have you scared. Like they even asked him, like, did you take the test? You know, the coronavirus test, and. His line is he took it. But when they asked him the question, D, I don't know if you noticed this, it was like he was strangely incapable of explaining what the test was. And I'm watching him going, I'm not sure this guy took the test. So now it's sort of like with Rahm and the Laquan McDonald video for our out-of-town listeners. Laquan McDonald was a 16-year-old who was killed by Chicago police. They had a video of the shooting. Rahm kept it hidden until after he was safely reelected, and then he only released it after a judge ordered him into in a Freedom of Information suit and a public access suit. So he released it. And then when he released it, Rahm said, I never watched it. And so nobody believed him. It's sort of a similar thing like with Trump. It's like when your leaders do so much prevarication, so much lying, outright lying, so much ducking and dodging and evading, you don't really trust them. And it really hurts at critical moments, at crises, like the one we're facing now with coronavirus, like the one we faced when Rahm was mayor and we were suddenly this crisis of confidence with our government, people in the streets protesting because of the shooting of Laquan McDonald in the video. When your leaders lie to you on a regular basis, you can't trust them, and that's where we're at right now with this president of the United States. I emerged from my cocoon, D, in time to vote. Yeah, I voted. Okay. Well, I know you're going to want to talk about that later, whether we should even had elections at all. But I voted. I voted today. It was kind of crowded in there. There was like, I'd say 5 other people. Sometimes I'm the only guy. Yeah, that's why I say 5
I was
other
very
people.
conflicted. I went and early voted yesterday. I was just conflicted. Like, all right, so do I completely avoid everybody at home, or do I go stand in a room with a bunch of strangers and go vote? What do I do?
Wow, that was like.
That was confliction.
I know, that was like kung fu fighting. Remember that song? Remember that song from the 70s?
All right, we've gone 2 songs of the day. Don't do 3, please.
Everybody was kung fu fight. Little Jackie Chan. Was there anybody at your voting?
Yeah.
Oh, there were people there, huh?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
There were people there.
Well, there were people there where I voted, but I'll tell you this: we'll get into this later. I think that's one of your news items, right? Didn't we do pre-show prep and talk about this, D?
I was cleaning the studio.
Oh, that was our pre-show prep. Folks, you got to see Dennis clean. I'm cleaning. He really got into it, man. Everything is clean here. You could eat off of that table.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. So, yes, I voted today. And should I reveal who I voted for, D?
Yeah.
There's 2 schools of thought on this one, D. One is the school of thought that most journalists abide by, which is you never tell people how you voted. Some journalists won't even vote. They're like, well, if I vote, that's a conflict of interest, so I'm not going to vote. There's actually some who do that. They won't vote. And then there's the other school of thought is, who's kidding who? Everybody knows who I voted for. Everybody knows. Okay. Oh, for how many months have I been saying, oh, well, number 1, 2, 3, number 1 is Bernie. What do you guys think? Like at the last minute, Biden jumped ahead of Bernie? Come on, I watched the debate on Sunday. You watched the debate too. You're political junkies. Bernie mopped the floor with Biden. No, I know you Biden lovers. I got a lot of Biden lovers out there. You go, I thought Joe did well. Yeah. Compared to Trump, Joe is Abraham Lincoln, okay? But compared to Bernie on the stage, let's be honest, Bernie mopped the floor with them. I think we're being honest there, right? It's like saying, well, when the Bulls lose to the Bucks, even though I love the Bulls, I got to say the Bucks are a better team. So I think it's pretty clear and obvious, being objective, that Bernie mopped the floor with Biden. Although Bernie stumbled at the early start part of the debate. I don't know if you saw this. He kept calling the coronavirus the Ebola virus. He got it mixed up, and then he blamed Biden. Typical thing. Now that was slick, Bernie. Well, you put it in my head, Joe. What you're talking about? And Biden's looking at him like, huh? By the way, he's like, the whole thing is that old people are in trouble. Like everybody's looking out for me. God bless every single person that I know. Every person of the millennial persuasion is like, Ben, we're worried about you because you're old. And here we have like guys older than me running for president. It's come down 3 of them. It's gonna one of the obviously it's either Trump, Bernie, or Biden. They're all in their upper 70s. Anyway, 2 old guys debating. I thought Bernie did a great job, and I was happy to vote for him today. I saw his name in there, and I voted for him. I voted for him last time. I voted for him this time. But just so everybody knows, Joey B will probably be the nominee, and I'm not one of those Bernie supporters who's Bernie or bust. That is clear. I'm going to vote for Joey B, but I'm hoping, really hoping, that Bernie pushes him left. I've seen some evidence that that's happening, not enough. Like, for instance, in an attempt to win over Elizabeth Warren supporters, Joe Biden said he supported her bankruptcy, her proposals for changing bankruptcy law, which is interesting because he was the opponent to it back in the day when the bill actually passed before Elizabeth Warren was a senator. So, he's cagey here. All right, I'll support Elizabeth Warren's ideas, so that'll bring over Elizabeth Warren supporters, but I'm not ready to support Bernie on Medicare for all. Come on, Joey B. If anything shows that this country needs Medicare for all, it's this coronavirus scare. Absolutely proves that we need a health care plan that doesn't leave people in jeopardy worrying whether they can pay their health care bills, doesn't leave people worrying, well, maybe I shouldn't go to the doctor. Even now, there's are the tests covered? You get mixed reports from like what it seems like whatever politician. Well, first of all, you can't even get a hold of that test. That's another thing. So if anything proves that Bernie was right, it's this current scare we're having. So I was proud to vote for Bernie Sanders today. I know I shouldn't say that. They're going to take away my journalism card. Uh-oh, here they come. They just ripped up my journalism card, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry, man.
Damn, I hate when that happens.
Journalist, I'm not going to tell you because I'm a objective reporter, okay? But come on, man. Everybody knows you could like figure people out. You know, you could just kind of read between the lines of what they wrote. You could know where they're coming from. Pretend you're actually like there's this notion of objectivity that is you're pure and you're like a scientist in a lab, and it's just you're dealing with just hardcore facts. Come on, folks. Anyway, happy to vote for Bernie. Glad that it's over. Hope we get out of this election day without anybody getting sick, and move on with democracy. We got a great show today. Yes, it's a little different over the phone. Maya, we're going to be calling her up. Ring, ring, ring. Marc Sims, we're going to call him up. Ring, ring, ring. Look, I have a rotary dial, Dave. Millennials are like, wow, first he was on the red box. No, it's the rotary dial.
They stopped listening.
Actually, I shouldn't even talk about millennials anymore. It's like younger than millennials. The lady at the checkout counter was 19, all right? And
That's a Z.
She didn't know what it was. I said, you're his...
Oh, you brought it up to her.
Yeah, I did. We were having a conversation about the red box. She says she likes the red box, too.
Shout out to Jay Marie on the live stream chat. Why is Ben so obsessed with millennials?
Great question. I'm surrounded by them, tell her.
I said his kids are millennials.
Yeah,
I think that's
and all their friends, and the young doctor who's in the studio with me. Anyway, Henry Davis, by phone. We're going to ring him up. He's in South Bend. Usually he drives in. And he, of course, I don't know if we've done bonus interviews with him, as Dennis pointed out. He's never actually done a live show interview. So he would have been in the studio for the live show. But unfortunately, because of the coronavirus outbreak, we're going to do it by phone. But interesting guy. He's a councilman from South Bend. He ran against Mayor Pete for mayor back in 2015. He was very critical of Mayor Pete on the show. And he's been on like 3 times, right, D? Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
maybe like 4 or 5.
So it'll be interesting. I wonder if he saw Mayor Pete, his performance on the Jimmy Kimmel show. He was the guest host a while ago, so get his thoughts on that, get his thoughts on the primary. Henry,
we should let Henry Davis host the Ben Joravsky show one day.
And can I be a guest on that?
That'd be cool.
All right, that would be cool. I know he would love it. He would drive in from South Bend. Anyway, Henry Davis, we'll get him on the phone as well. So great show, a lot of political talk ahead of us. We talk about the debate, we can talk about the election, we can talk about the coronavirus, all good stuff. But before we do any of that, the young man from Alton, oh yeah, the man they call the doctor, with the news.
Hey everybody, I'm Dennis. Is everybody doing all right? Are we hanging in there, listeners? I've been wondering about you people all weekend, and I hope you're using your brains during all this. Remember, wash yourself, watch yourself. Oh, and if anyone needs tips on social distancing, please reach out. Turns out I'm really good at it.
That's correct.
Are we 6 feet apart?
I think so. I believe 6 feet. Yes. So a week ago was maybe my worst trait as a human being, but now all of a sudden I'm a genius, Ben. Everybody's seeking advice.
You're doing it long before it was fashionable.
For those wondering what our schedule is looking like this week, well, we'll be here. I don't know about here in the studio, but we will be delivering shows, content, all right, this week, today through Friday, with bonus content on the weekends, just like we always do. Our scheduled guest will be joining us as well, but we're not savages, all right? For the time being, they will be safely quarantined and joining us over the phone or by Skype. Either way, they'll be with us, just not face-to-face. So live streamers, get ready for some bonus awkward content when we try setting that one up live. That's going to happen.
Somehow or other, we will prevail.
So if you're bunkered and hunkered down at home with nothing to do, we're going to be providing shows for you, content. Don't worry, just like we always do. As for the next week, who the hell knows?
Now, I book ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm completely booked for 2 weeks out, probably into 3 weeks. So,
Ben Joravsky, the only person in the world who knows what's going to happen to his life in 2 weeks.
Well, that's true. Yeah, there could be just utter breakdown of civilization as we know it. I'm depending on civilization continuing, although our president is so bad. But yeah, I'm looking at the little book. We're booked, dude. We're booked through this week. And next, I'm looking at some great guests. Samina Mustafa will be here. Stacey Davis, well, not literally here in the studio. Stacey Davis Gates, PC, Peter Cunningham, Miles Kampf-Lassin. A lot of great guests. Oh, the political know-it-alls. I
wonder how we're going to talk to them on the phone at the same time.
We'll figure that one. They'll be passing the phone back and forth. Anyway.
All right, but we do want to send good vibes out to our Facebook friend and live stream listener, Bab. Bab always sends us his thoughts on the political news of the day. His comments have helped us with show content on numerous occasions. And Ben, he did it again. Babbers is having a rough one at all this here. Bab posted an update on Facebook. He says, my ass has been stuck in Reno for 2 nights because this coronavirus weather system that has set up camp over the Sierras and won't move. I had this drive done in 2 days, but now have to consider driving back to Utah, down to Vegas, across to LA, then up to San Francisco. Mother beeper!
Did he really write beeper, or did he write the real thing?
He wrote Mother Beeper.
Okay. Bab usually comes at us from the far left, so he takes issue, for instance, with my admiration for Nancy Pelosi. Although, again, always with Nancy Pelosi, I like the general direction, but then it's like I wish she would push a little farther. The legislation that the House passed in terms of helping the country in the coronavirus, I don't think it went far enough, and it's always the Democrats. I know I shouldn't complain because they're the only adults in the room. The Republicans are totally worthless when it comes to pressing issues that affect anybody other than their donors. But I just wish the Dems would go a little further, just a little further. Some of the provisions in terms of guaranteeing people their wages if they don't work. I don't think they went paid leave is what I'm trying to say. I don't think they went far enough. But you know what? They're better than the Republicans, and that's where I always find myself, D. And my lefty friends are always, Ben, you're too accommodating with the Democrats. But then I think they're so much better than the Republicans. Anyway, whenever I think of Babs, I think about his critique of Nancy Pelosi.
Babs, we're sending good vibes your way, dude. All right, one more thing before we get to the local news, and we haven't done this in a while, and I think now would be the perfect time to bring it back. If you're listening to this and you're stuck at home, maybe bored, or if there's something that you would like us to know, we encourage any or all of you this week to send us an email, bennyjshow@gmail.com, as we will attempt to bring you this name's awesome here. I thought of this. The Ben Joravsky shows you can't spell quarantine without Q&A special. Question and answer. Send us questions, and we will read the answers on a special bonus podcast. Send us something. bennyjshow@gmail.com. It can be anything. A question, a statement, a song, a word, a video, a complaint. Whatever your bored quarantine ass wants to send, we will read it. Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show @gmail.com. I'm going to be reminding you all about this throughout the week. The Ben Joravsky shows you can't spell quarantine without Q&A.
Yeah, that's
special.
Really good. That's really good, man.
Send us your questions, and hopefully we can do that. All right, now let's find out what's happening in Chicago and/or Illinois this afternoon. Happy Election Day, Illinois. Do you feel happy? Did you vote? I did, but if you didn't, I don't know. I kind of don't blame you. Sorry, Jeff, on the live stream chat. I just really feel that way. It's all week people have been telling us to stay inside, and now make sure you go out and vote.
Wait, what did Jeff on the live stream say?
Jeff's always on the live stream saying, he's avid on people going to vote, and I'm with him on that. But I don't know, maybe this time around, I don't know.
Well, I'm all over the map on this one, D, as I usually am on many issues. All right, here's the deal. Obviously, I believe that to be safe, we should minimize the amount of exposure we have to germs and other people. Obviously, duh. Okay. On the other hand, the election is today, March 17th. Oh, so how long do we delay it? How long is this going to last? Is it going to get a lot worse before it gets better? I fear that. So, what do we hold it off until June, July? Is voting any worse than going to the Jewel? We still have to go to the Jewel. We still have to go, or I keep saying the Jewel. We still have to go to grocery stores. So my sense is that the encounters we have in the grocery stores and the crowded aisles are worse than the encounters we have in the voting booth, or in the polling places. So I guess if you push me, I'll say have the election, and because democracy goes on, I can't see an advantage to postponing it. I have the feeling that if we postpone, you talk about a low turnout. If we postpone it to June, there'd be no turnout. So ultimately, I said, have the election. I don't see anybody getting an advantage on it, but
Well, there are those out there who are kind of agreeing with me here. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times. Tinas Fondeles and Mitch Dudek. The headline reads, as Election Day limps out of the gate, Chicago Election Board rips governor for not postponing the whole thing. Polls that failed to open, election judges that failed to show, promised bottles of hand sanitizer that failed to arrive, and low voter turnout. With the coronavirus on the loose, Chicago's elections on Tuesday, today, are looking like a shaky affair. Barely 3.5 hours after the polls opened in Chicago, city election officials ripped Governor J.B. Pritzker for refusing last week to reschedule the whole thing, and lashing back, Pritzker's office contended that it had offered Chicago reinforcements, including National Guard troops, to work as election judges, but the city failed to take the state up on the offer.
Who do you believe, Pritzker or the city? I saw this. Now, this is new breaking. They're getting a lot sharper in their criticism. Today's Sun-Times that I saw was, I think it was Allen. Jim Allen was quoted. Jim Allen, spokesman for the Chicago Board of Elections, was saying, how did he put, this was not our call. This is people higher up, and I think you could tell that we've expressed concerns. We are on orders to conduct an election, end of story, period. If we say anything now to raise doubts about whether tomorrow's election day, we'd stand accused of violating the law, et cetera. So he was making it clear that they did not think it was a good idea to hold the election. They were not prepared for it. Listen, they didn't have the sanitizers they need. You know, it was funny. When I went to the polling place today, D, there was a spot where everybody was kind of lax. So there was that table where you go to sign up. You know, you fill out the paper so you can turn it in and get your ballot. And so it's a desk, it's a table roughly the size of this table. It's right in front of me. I don't know, what is that, about 4 feet or so. Anyway, so there was a gentleman already at the table, so I was standing back at least 10 feet to give him room to fill it out. And one of the election judges goes, "Oh, you could just stand next to him. You could fill out the form right next to him." And I go, "Well, this is social distancing." So I was helping them. A lot of urgency in the polling place. So yeah, I can understand why people, are concerned, and I can actually, like I said, I could see it on two sides of this. I just don't know when is this going to pass? How long do we hold off? And do we wait till June, July? So I could see it either way on this one. And again, I'll repeat what I said. The scene in the polling place it's probably safer than the grocery store.
All right, and we'll keep you posted on that story as today's program rolls along here. Maya Dukmasova is going to be joining us in just moments. Ben, we heard that you are feeling the burn. You voted Bernie. What about the rest of that?
Well, I'm not supposed to tell you because I'm a journalist.
Oh, yeah, really? How about the Cook County State's Attorney's race?
Right.
Who'd you vote for there? Bill Conway, right? Bob Fioretti. You love Bob Fioretti.
I do love Bob Fioretti, all right? And if I did my rankings, the rankings, I put them in the paper, actually, have remained unchanged since I put them in the paper. There's 4 candidates running in the Democratic primary. The rankings, I'm going to go from lowest to highest, okay? So there's 4th, Bill Conway. I can't remember who was, 3rd, Donna Moore. 2nd, Bob Fioretti. Number 1, Kim Fox.
Boy, what a roundabout way to say you voted for Kim Fox.
I did not actually technically say that, okay?
Cook County Circuit Court Clerk. Who'd you vote for?
Oh, Jacob Meister. He was on the show. I thought he did a very compelling job. That is a entity. Okay, that should be the least political entity of them all. And that, of course, is the office that is a repository for all the documents. It's like the most boring position on the ballot. Nobody knows anything about it, but it's very important. They keep track of all the documents. Dorothy Brown held that office for, I forget how many years, a long time, 20 years, something like that. And she finally is stepping down, not running for re-election. Her office was shrouded in all sorts of corruption charges, et cetera. And so she just decided she wasn't going to run for re-election. And I just figured that the person you put in charge of that thing is somebody who is good at arranging things. You get what I'm saying? And so I don't know if Jacob Meister is good at arranging things. I don't know the guy personally. I just had him in the studio once, interviewed him. I just have a sense that he understands as a working lawyer what the office needs, and that he's probably going to hire the right people to get it in order. So that's why I voted for him. It's not as though I can absolutely assure you that he's the greatest He will be the greatest clerk of the circuit court of all time, which, by the way, what an interesting thing. I was thinking about this with Kim Fox. I was arguing that she's perhaps the greatest state's attorney of my lifetime, realizing that the competition is not great. I could not tell you who the greatest clerk of the circuit court is. Even as a political geek, I cannot tell you who the greatest clerk of this. It's one of those offices, folks, that you know nothing about, but it's patronage rich. So in the old days of the Cook County Democratic Party, very important election, because that's where you could put a lot of people, a lot of patronage employees who were expected to go out on election day, knock on doors for the party.
I thought someone really knocked. Like, huh?
So I know things have supposedly changed in this day and age of the Shackman agreement, in which we're not supposed to have patronage for these civil service jobs. So anyway, I'm hoping Jacob Meister can get that office in order.
Wow. Shout out to KMA Barry. He weighed in on the live stream chat. He says, Ben's interview with Jacob Meister got me to switch my vote to him. So if he wins by 1 vote, the show gets the credit. Yeah. That's what we're talking about, KMA.
All right, yeah. No, I know. And KM, I hear you, because he convinced me, to vote for him, because I thought he was very pragmatic in terms of what the office needs and just getting it in order. Like when you look for a file, a court file, you hope that it's there. And how about getting it completely computerized, digitized? In this day and age, you still get these folders like something out of Dickens' time. So it's just a very practical, pragmatic change we need. And I recall, I said this during the interview, I remember when the Miguel Del Valle, who's now the head of the school board, he's an appointee by Lori Lightfoot, became the city's clerk. And he put the minutes of city council meetings online. It was such a bold thing for Chicago. In the old days, you actually had paper files. You had to go to the library if you wanted to look at minutes. If you wanted to see what transpired at a city council meeting, you'd have to go to the library and get the books out. It was so old-fashioned. And it was a big deal, Miguel Del Valle computerized. This is like 2008, something like that, 2009. So I'm hoping that whoever gets elected as clerk of the circuit court can do what Del Valle did.
Shout out to Jay Marie. She asked the question. Good call, Jay Marie. I almost forgot. Who'd you pick for water rec?
I wrote in Jay Marie. Guys, I have a confession to make. Please don't hold this against me, Jay Marie. I can't remember.
Oh.
I really cannot remember. I was focused on president. I was focused on Supreme Court. I was focused on state's attorney. That was probably my number one. I'm going to probably talk about this with Maya a little bit. Got personal with me when Conway put the ad. We had Kim Fox on the show. She gave her ideas. She thought our utter obsession with Smollettgate was BS. She said, instead of saying BS, she said the word itself. Dennis won't allow me to swear in the show, so I won't say it. And Billy Conway turned that into a commercial that's going around the clock. So on one hand, he's promoting the show, so I can't complain. On the other hand, he weaponized or attempted to weaponize something a guest said, and I just thought it was low ball. And so I really voted. I was happy to vote for Kim Fox.
Jay Marie responded, boo. Can't remember. What?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Jay Marie.
All right, feel free
I thought she was booing because she loves Conway.
No. She was booing. You can't remember who the hell you voted for only a few hours ago.
I'm sorry. I apologize, Jay Marie.
Be like Jay Marie. Be like KMA Barry and weigh in on the live stream chat. Ask Ben who he voted for in a particular election.
Please don't ask me water rec.
Tell us who you voted for or weigh in with whatever. We always encourage that. And also, BennyJShow@gmail.com. Send us your emails because we're going to try to have ourselves so you can't spell quarantine without Q&A. Benny J Show special. We'll try and answer whatever questions you may have, comments, whatever it is. Send them our way, and we'll talk about it. Our next guest is Maya Dukmasova, and I'm just going to call her right now. Let's see how this goes, huh?
Oh, wow. You're going to do it live?
Yep.
Oh, wow. It's like the Howard Stern show.
Howard. We're going to get Maya on the line, then we're going to take a break. How's that sound?
Okay, wow. This is
Hello.
Maya?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, what's up? Hey,
I guess I should turn you guys off.
turn the radio down. We're live.
We'll take a break. How about
Yeah.
that?
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you. Hang tight. We're going to go to break, and we'll be right with you.
Okay.
All right, cool. Hey, everybody, don't go anywhere. The Ben Joravsky Show will be right back.
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on.
Hey, welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Ordinarily, I'd be looking across the table at Maya. Maya comes in. But
Now you have to look at across the table at an empty space.
yeah, I'm looking at an empty space, Maya. I'm looking at the chair where you usually sit. And Maya walks into the studio with something on her mind. She sits down and she delivers. But now it sounds like you're in your kitchen and you're moving pots and pans. Did you drop something there, Maya?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It's live, and we're making the best of it as we go along. Before we get started, I know you want to say something about reader donations and a campaign that the reader has. So why don't you talk about that before I start in on the political issues of the day, as in voting in city has been rife with confusion in states holding primaries today. So talk about the reader donation drive.
Yeah, so as folks might or might not know, the Reader relies very heavily on advertising from local businesses to fund our operations. The ads are in large part from venues, theaters, events that might be going on, everything that's arts and culture related, everything that's about, being outside with other people, being in confined spaces with other people. And so as this coronavirus outbreak has gotten worse and those businesses have shuttered, people are pulling their ads because, their revenue is down, so they can't afford advertising for events they can't host and plays and concerts that aren't going to go on. So obviously this really affects our bottom line, and it's going to be a really hard situation. And luckily we are set up to take donations and moving to nonprofit status. So now more than ever, it's like really, really important that folks consider supporting us financially. You can sign up to be a member or just give a one-time donation. It's really going to be a very hard few weeks for us with the loss of this advertising revenue. So if you enjoy the Reader, we've been around every week since 1971 for free at your local businesses or at your local street corners. So I really encourage people to consider giving us a few extra bucks if you have them. And also we're having a fundraiser that's meant to support not only us, but local artists. We are going to be creating a coloring book that will include pages designed by local artists. And the proceeds from the sale of that coloring book are going to go partially back to the artist who designed it and partially to us. So this is a really quick turnaround project. So if you're a local artist and you would like to contribute a page to the coloring book, you can go to the Chicago Reader website and you'll see that you'll see a link on there for the coloring book fundraiser, or you can just Google Chicago Reader coloring book fundraiser. And we are taking submissions from artists until the end of the day Thursday. And as far as once we put it all together, we'll charge $20 per book, and the proceeds will be split 50-50 with the artist. So please consider submitting your work if you're an artist. Please consider buying the book once it becomes available, and keep an eye out for updates about that fundraiser. Again, you just Google Chicago Reader Coloring Book Fundraiser or go to chicagoreader.com and you should be able to find it.
All right, very good, Maya. Thank you much for that. So let's talk a little politics and coronavirus. This just popped up on my phone. I'm going to share this with you. This is from the New York Times. Voting in cities has been rife with confusion in states holding primaries today, with early turnout largely lower than expected. And Dennis quoted earlier the Chicago Board of Election upset some of their officials that the state even bothered to have the election, wished that the election had been delayed, postponed. My initial thoughts, and I'm sticking with them because I'm not just going to just flip in the middle of the show. At least I need 24 hours, Maya, before I completely flip on my position, is that we should have had the election, get it over with, because I don't know how long this crisis is going to last. What's your thoughts on all this?
Well, so I guess I was listening to you earlier, and I see the point you made about turnout, about how changing election day might have really impacted turnout, but it feels to me like it was really irresponsible to continue to have election day today, especially since it's clear that the local election boards and the state election board was not prepared to deal with what continuing to have the election today was going to require. I mean, I went to vote in Edgewater on Friday. The Edgewater Library, there were no lines. It was like the middle of the day. There were no lines. There was hand sanitizer and gloves at the polling place, so you didn't have to touch, the pens, the clipboards, the stuff that they give you, the ballot, the screens. You didn't have to touch any of that because there were gloves there. The process went pretty smoothly. But then on Sunday, I heard from friends who went to early vote, and the situation was like pretty bad. I had friends who stood in line for 3 hours. People standing in line to vote really were not like respecting the distancing at all. And there hadn't been like today I saw Andre Vasquez had tweeted that he was at a local polling place putting down, not electioneering, but putting down tape to demarcate, how far away people should stand from one another. Like there was nothing like that going on Sunday, apparently, at the polling places that I heard friends had been at. And, and then there's like one pen and one clipboard that's being passed around. And the whole thing was just really, it's people are being squeezed together and things are not being sanitized. And it just really seems like this is exposing members of the community and voters to more risk and poll workers as well. I mean, a lot of election judges and poll workers tend to be older, so this is a scary time for them.
Yeah, the irony is, as I said already on the show, is that nobody seemed too concerned at the polling place I went to about any of these matters in terms of social distancing or whether the pens are sanitized. There was no sanitizer that I saw.
What
I brought
kind
my
of
own.
public was it at your polling place?
What was your question?
What kind of public was it at your polling place that wasn't concerned? What kind of persuasion were these folks?
The election judges themselves didn't seem very concerned. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but they just didn't seem very concerned about it. I already mentioned about how, there was a table where we fill out the forms, and they said, hey, go stand next to the guy and fill out. There's a form there. And I go, well, no, I'm trying to respect the 6 feet. Oh, yeah, the 6 feet. So I hear you, and I guess this may be an instance where if this thing pans out really poorly, that I may have to flip. At the very least, it shows that there was not a lot. It doesn't seem as though there was a lot of coordination between the city and the state. There's already people pointing the fingers at each other. Who should have done this? Who should have done that? So I'm a little discouraged. I would have thought that they would have gotten down, they would have figured all this stuff out last week because they had plenty of time to plan this.
No, listen, I mean, I think folks forget that last week, I mean, think about it. I was in the studio last week talking to you about Italy and Iran. And I told you guys, and I was talking about this last week about how bad this was going to get. It feels like it's been a million years since last week, but nobody was taking this seriously until last weekend. I mean, this has been such a fast-moving situation, and I mean, I don't know how the calculation was made to still have election day, like why this conclusion was different here than in Louisiana. But I don't know. I'm curious what you think. Like, who does it benefit to not move the election?
Well, I've thought about this. Like, is there my initial thought is that any decision in the state of Illinois when it comes to election, this is just the cynic in me speaking, is intended to benefit an incumbent. Any decision. So, but I would say that if you move the election to June, it would benefit the incumbents even more than if you held it today, because I would believe that there would be a lower turnout in June or July or whenever you could get this, whenever this crisis passes, because that would be an election like we've never had an election in the middle of June in the summer. So I would think that would be more beneficial to the incumbent. So I just think it's a wash in terms of who it benefits. I believe that more likely what we should have done, now that I'm thinking through it, is try to have an election where there are no polling places, where as much as possible it's through the mail, if such a thing is possible. I'm also really worried as I think ahead.
We were not in a position to have such an election in Illinois. We did not have any kind of infrastructure set up to make something like that happen.
Absolutely.
No way.
So that would have required
years. This would take years to create.
So that would have required postponing into June or July to set up that kind of infrastructure. I'm concerned looking forward toward November. You know what I'm saying? I have no idea how long this crisis will last. You're absolutely correct. The world is a different place this week than last week. When you came on the show last week sounding the alarm, some of our listeners saying, oh, she's gone too far, she's too extreme.
People were saying that? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, a few people were saying that. But, there's always got to be critics out there, Maya, so that's just the way of the world. Welcome to my life. Welcome to my life. And so, but, I think that you were just in tune with something beyond what normal Chicagoans were, because...
Yeah, like me, I guess I was just paying attention to the news in other parts of the world and seeing that it was completely absurd to think that this wasn't going to play out the same way here, and probably worse, because people here think it's not going to be that serious. And also, this is a way, 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 way bigger country with a way more bifurcated government structure than all the other places where this outbreak had happened.
So I don't know. Do you see a political advantage to any particular candidate or by having the election today?
I'm looking at the turnout results. I just got the latest numbers from the Chicago Election Board, and they have the numbers updated up until through noon. So as of in the 11 o'clock hour, so as of noon, what they have on here is that the highest turnout was among 55 to 64-year-olds, which I guess is pretty typical. That's pre-election day and election day. Mm-hmm. And just election day turnout, sorry, I'm confused about how they're creating this graph. Okay, yeah. So 55 to 64-year-olds have so far had the highest turnout, and it's almost 50,000 votes. And then, these are people who vote for incumbents. And, this is the demographic that's going to be voting for Joe Biden more likely, and voting for other incumbents they're familiar with and are probably regular, reliable voters. And also people maybe who aren't absorbing the full importance of the social distancing. I mean, I don't know. People are going to get offended at me saying this probably, but the stories I've been hearing about how the sanitation is handled at the polls is that it's not the young people who are having a hard time socially distancing and, sanitizing their hands.
Yeah. Okay, Jay Marie, you listening to that?
Get your people, Ben.
Jay Marie, you hear that? That's what I have to put up with millennials, these whippersnappers. Jay Marie's a listener who Maya was teasing me because I have an obsession with millennials. I hear what you're saying. By the way, they didn't even have it. I brought my own sanitizer. How about that? I'm an old geezer.
Good for you.
Yeah, my wife, God bless her, she gave me my own, put it in a little box, and I brought it to the polling place, and I cleaned off the pen and wiped off the surface. I voted, and then, man, I sprinted home and washed my hands. So yeah, it was, listen, obviously it was not a perfect situation, to put it mildly. And as I sit here talking, I could see the reasoning for delaying it. But then again, it's June, July. How long is this going to be? It's the same question I had before. I just want to get through today. And I don't know how much the election.
Did you see this very snippy statement from the governor's office in response to the Chicago Elections Board accusing them of not canceling the elections? Did you see this?
Yeah. Right. Do you have it in front of you?
Yeah. Do you want me to read it?
Read it. Yeah. Dennis already read it. Read it again.
All right. Okay. So this is a statement from the governor's office. Last week, the Chicago Board of Elections held a call with the governor's office, the House Speaker, and Senate President, where they voiced concern about having enough election judges. The governor's office offered to provide the National Guard to help staff the election, and we also worked to recruit volunteers. 2,000 young people from the Mikvah Challenge were turned away from volunteering because the board wouldn't reduce red tape. So instead of accepting help or offering any solutions of their own, the Chicago Board of Elections decided to wait until Election Day to get on a call with press and make politically charged accusations. The governor cannot unilaterally cancel or delay an election. Elections are the cornerstone, blah, 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 of our democracy. We all know that. And then the statement ends with, what's concerning is that the board has time to play politics instead of doing their job. Instead of hosting a press call to pass on the blame for their failures, we would urge the Chicago Board of Elections to focus on ensuring our democracy can continue as uninterrupted as possible by troubleshooting the issue at the polls. This administration and the governor are focused on our critical health needs around the state today. The Chicago Board of Elections should find a way to do their job.
Yeah, no, like I said this.
Wow, I feel like I need to leave this conversation. Like, I feel like I need to leave the room, you know? This is like, this is so fiery.
Yeah, well, we're at that stage of a lot of finger pointing, and it really gets at the point that you were making, and that is, it's like a process we're going through as we deal with the ramifications of the coronavirus crisis. And as people become more and more aware that we have to be more and more vigilant. So we're at the issue of what we should have done a week ago to prepare for the smoothest sailing on Election Day. Do you follow me? And now the Chicago Board of Election are saying the governor forced us to do this. The governor is saying we offered you assistance, you didn't take it. And I'm just listening to this this contentious fight, and I'm saying, why weren't you guys on the same page a week ago? Maya was on the show warning us what we were facing. If Maya knew it, you should have known it. And so I have the feeling that's happening all over the country in many ways, Maya. I don't know if you saw yesterday, Mayor Bill de Blasio in New York was widely criticized because they had ordered closing of all gyms in New York because of the coronavirus. And he got his last day at his YMCA, his beloved YMCA, and even his friends were saying what a jerk he is for sending out the wrong message. So it's as though people believe it, but they don't want to believe it. Do you follow what I'm saying, Maya? They hear.
They think it's not going to affect them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just don't know how else to, people just don't think it's going to affect them. But I'll tell you what, this should make you feel better, and everybody else who thinks that America is lagging behind. I'm talking to my friends and relatives in Russia. People were going to 50,000 person soccer matches last weekend. And today I'm getting messages with, friends asking, hey, are you guys having this issue too, where people are making runs on grocery stores and buying up all the toilet paper? I was like, yeah, for like a week already.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're reporting way fewer cases in Russia, but obviously it's going to be an issue there too. And people are really not even fully woken up to the scale of the problem yet at all over there.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised. And it's one of the things we talked about. I urge everybody to check it out if you haven't already. When Howard Ehrman came on, Dr. Howard Ehrman, he was talking about the various ways countries have dealt with this crisis, and like why South Korea did it so well, and what the United States could do better. And clearly, our leaders, as we're learning right now, when we hear this war of words between Pritzker and the Chicago Board of Election Commissioners, clearly our leaders in the state of Illinois were not on the same page, did not work all these things out. And Maya, from the get-go, we've had conflicting messages from our leaders. I can remember when in the early stages, Lori Lightfoot was urging people not to take it too seriously, not to panic, to continue to go, for instance, to Chinatown. And so, you know what I'm saying? There was conflicting messages as...
Well, this is not, okay, listen, I want to be careful and not to imply that anybody is in more danger because they went to Chinatown. You're in more danger if you're coming through the airport right now. I mean, I don't know if you saw these photos from O'Hare over the last few days, but, you know, people are just spending hours and hours and hours in very crowded, confined conditions with tons of other people traveling from all over the world.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, I know.
That's like by far the most dangerous thing that could be happening probably now, much more so than whether or not you went shopping in Chinatown.
Yeah, no, I understand what the point that you're making. I'm just saying that I'm not picking on Chinatown. I don't think Chinatown was any more dangerous than any other section of the city. I'm just saying that the city and the state's attitude toward this virus has sort of been a work in progress, and I've watched it develop over time. All right, now it's election day. We talked about the impact of the coronavirus on election. What are you going to tell us about who you voted for, Maya? Or are you one of those journalists who say, I won't say who I voted for?
Listen, the people who follow me already probably can make their own conclusions about it. Don't put me in this position. I'm going to continue to not be on your bandwagon about this, because the thing that comes after my name in descriptions of what I do for a living is not columnist. So I'm going to refrain from answering that question.
I think that's a duck and a dodge, Dr. D.
Fine, that's fine.
All right, very good. Let's play that game for a little while longer. All right, Maya, I'm going to let you go. But before we do, one more time, tell folks about the reader donation drive and the coloring book drive.
Yeah. So if you go to chicagoreader.com/donate or chicagoreader.com/support, you can become a member and sign up for a regular contribution for the reader, as we've been doing for a year now. Or you can give a one-time donation, and any little bit really helps us now, because we've lost so much revenue from advertisers pulling their ads, because so many of our advertisers are also really impacted by the outbreak, because there are venues and theaters and events that are now not happening or have to shut their doors. So, and the coloring book fundraiser, you can find information about that on our website. Let me see if I can get like an easy description of how people can get to it. So if you go to chicagoreader.com, you should be able to, on the front page, on sort of like in the middle of the page, you'll see Chicago Reader Coloring Book Fundraiser. You can also just Google Chicago Reader Coloring Book Fundraiser. And what we're doing now is through Thursday, we're collecting submissions from artists for the coloring book. So any local, or even I guess non-local artists, if they want, can submit a page for the coloring book, something Chicago themed. All the details are provided on our website, and we will take submissions through 5 p.m. on Thursday, and those can be emailed to our publisher, Tracy Bain. The final size, once we get all of this together, we'll create a PDF of the coloring book, and it'll be $20 per book, and we will split the proceeds 50-50 between ourselves as the reader and the artists who have contributed to the book. So please consider participating in that way, whether you're an artist or if you're someone who needs something to do while you're quarantined at home. We really appreciate everyone's support and continued engagement with us. And the thing that I talked about this on Twitter yesterday, but basically, I mean, the Reader is an arts and culture focused publication, and it's really the arts and culture scene in the city that allows your work and my work, which isn't so focused on the arts, to continue. But without the arts and culture part of our world, we really couldn't exist at all. And we're not necessarily the best equipped organization to give you, up to the minute updates about coronavirus, but the things that we do, the other news organizations couldn't do even when there isn't a crisis going on. So I hope people will kind of consider that there's other kind of stuff that they'll need beyond the crisis, beyond information on the crisis. So thank you all for your support.
All right, very good, Maya. Thank you so much. Let's get back to your day. And we're going to move ahead. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Marc Sims will be with us. So stick around, everybody.
Thanks a lot, Maya.
Thanks.
All right, actually, Ben, let's just call up Marc Sims now and see if we got him, huh?
Oh, you going to do that again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Turns out it's very helpful if I just do it this way.
Go ahead. Do your thing. I love it when you do this. Like the Howard Stern show.
Okay, that was like 20 years ago. Okay, let's see here. Please allow microphone access to make a call. Okay, so we just did a Google call with Maya.
All right.
And we're just testing this out to see how it goes. We're going to do a Facebook call.
Let's
You're
see if
welcome,
this works.
Zuckerberg, with Marc Sims. So let's see. To make a call, you need to turn your microphone on. This will let people hear you during the call. Okay, well, that sounds interesting. Allow that to use my microphone. Oh, there we go. Let's see if Marc Sims answers. And then we'll get Marc on the line and we'll take a break. How's that sound?
Oh, man. Still waiting.
Okay, is it working?
See, look
Wow.
at that. Marc Sims, how's
Damn,
it going?
that sounds
man?
good.
Right?
Is it working? Are we on?
Yeah.
You're on. You're live. So don't swear.
I can't.
Don't swear.
You could swear. It's a podcast.
Oh, yeah. You can swear. Go ahead. Drop the F-bomb.
Okay, don't. I mean, if it feels natural, do it.
No, I'm not running for state's attorney, so.
Oh.
This sounds
No, I voted for Kim Fox.
It sounds very clear. It sounds good. Marc, we're going to throw you on hold. If you have us turned on YouTube, just make sure that's off, and we'll be right back, and we'll talk to you, okay?
Cool.
Cool. Man, that sounds awesome. Ben, go wash your hands. We'll be right back. Ben Joravsky Show will continue. Eroding beaches on Chicago's lakefront. Warmer winters in the upper Midwest. I was going to read this event that's a live event, but turns out this is over, so it ended on the 15th. Today's the 17th. Ah, boy. We'll be right back. Hang tight, everybody. All right, everybody, we're ready for hour number two. Hour number two of your Ben Joravsky Show for Tuesday, March 17th is just moments away. Ben has washed his hands. He's good, everybody, live stream audience, so you don't have to worry about that. Before we get into hour number 2, we'd like to thank the following unions for jumping on board and sponsoring this program. Unions like the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, not Aerosmith, Local 126 and District 8. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9 are sponsors, as well as the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. Giant thank you to those unions for jumping on board and sponsoring this show. And, of course, today's Ben Joravsky Show, hour 1 and 2, for Tuesday, March 17th, is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Hour number 2, let's do this. It is Tuesday, March 17th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. In this hour of the program, it's the return of our good friend, Marc Sims, and it's the Ben Joravsky Show live debut of Henry Davis Jr. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Marc Sims with us on Facebook Live or some kind of thing. I don't know what it is. Marc, you're coming in loud and clear, correct, sir?
Do you hear me?
Yes, sir. You sound beautiful.
It's weird, man.
It is weird, isn't this? Isn't it weird not having you in the studio?
The whole thing. I mean, we talk on the phone sometime, but I'm talking through my podcast equipment. But the whole thing is bizarre. But Ben, your buddy Dennis helped me out. He walked me through this process. I was scared, and he held my hand, and we got it done.
That's a lot.
It's going to be okay, Marc. I got you, buddy.
He's so sensitive.
You know, Marc, we're in the middle of one of these famous things where I do a flip-flop, okay? I could feel, you know, I always talk about, like, on certain issues, I'm a flag blowing in the breeze. So on the whole issue of whether there should have been an election today, I feel myself starting to flip-flop. When the day began, I was saying, yeah, there should be an election.
No,
we got it together.
Get it over with. Let's move on. This coronavirus is serious. I'm glad the governors had it and done. Let's move on.
So in other words, you're saying get it over with.
That's I voted by mail. That's what you have to do, people. Vote by mail.
Yeah. Voted by. Yeah. So you didn't even bother. You didn't even have a fear.
Of course. Well, we talking about being in the studio. This coronavirus is very serious. There's probably a lot of people who want to come down to see you in the studio live, because the folks don't know because they not in the studio. When Ben's guests come in the studio, listeners and viewers, they come in and give Ben a big kiss in the mouth. It's so cool, but you can't do that now.
You can't do it.
No more kisses in the mouth.
Yeah, no more kisses in the mouth. And when Marc Sims comes into the studio, he usually brings goodies. All those cookies you brought last time, Marc, all gone. All gone.
Greedy bunch of guests. I was told Dennis last night I was gonna bring a case of Corona beer.
Yeah. Okay, I get it.
I don't like Corona, but Dennis says he likes it, so I had to think about it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so now you're always saying that things are different on the south side there and the north side, but coronavirus affects the south side as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, but when we were talking last night, you told me, hey, Marc, I got to go for a walk around the block. I'm going to walk outside.
Yeah.
I'm like, walk where? I don't walk outside my neighborhood. Hell no. Out here in Auburn Gresham? No way. The only people I see walking in this neighborhood out here in Auburn Gresham is I'm near Auburn Gresham and Washington Heights to be exact, not too exact. So the people who have to walk. If you don't have to walk, you're in your car. The only people that walk are people that have to walk to the bus stop, or have to walk to the store, or some people say the store. They got to walk to the store. And other than that, you don't walk. So seeing you walking in Lakeview, I get it.
No, you were laughing at me. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, damn, you can go for a walk in your neighborhood at night? Shit.
No, the deal was I had been inside all day. I was really starting to lose it. I had to get some fresh air. So I said, Marc, I'm going for a walk. And boy, did you walk? You can't.
Oh, hell no.
Walk.
Night? No way.
It really wasn't that dark out, but I was walking at night. I ended up going down to the Jewel, which is very intense these days, going to the Jewel, to the local grocery stores. People are just vibing in a strange way, Marc. You know, there's a competition for food and items that people hoard, so you get that vibe. Then there's the fear that you're getting too close, you're invading my space. There's that vibe. And then there's just in general the well, I have issues with this. The people who kind of like aren't even aware that other people are around them, which contradicts everything, and they're just sort of wandering through the jewel. You ever notice that? Like the people in a store that are like they're just not aware of anyone around them and are just wandering. So between the people who are hostile and the people who are just wandering, and people like me who are worried about germs, it's an intense place.
Benny J, I can't afford Jewel. I'm in the Aldi, okay?
Okay, well, it's the same vibe there, isn't it?
No, but other day I missed the memo. I think the president spoke last week. I don't know what day, Monday, Tuesday, whatever it was, Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
And you go into Costco, and remember, I just go to Costco to get gas, but they do have some good stuff inside, some good snacks that I bring into the show.
Yes, you do.
But the shelves were freaking empty. You went to Aldi, the shelves were empty, and it just I didn't get the memo. I said, okay, I know it's serious, but they got the memo, and it was like the folks are getting ready for the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah,
It's not good, and no offense when I say your president is not doing a good job calming us down.
Well, let's talk about that. I feel I've said this on the air that he's the absolute worst president I've ever lived through. And so like yesterday, I was watching him. I watched the full press conference. I don't know if you saw that, Mark, but it seemed as though this is one of those Donald Trump moments where Donald Trump is trying to be responsible and mature and non-political. So he's acting at it. And while he's doing it, you get the feeling he's saying, look, I could do this. And then he's going to make fun of it at his next rally, whenever that is, in front of his followers or his next tweet. So I never really have the sense that the man is really in command. It's like an act at best. And so that was my general reaction to Donald Trump's performance yesterday. And of course, it does not leave me particularly inspired that he is in charge. What's your thoughts?
Well, the experts say this coronavirus is real. People are going to get, it's going to spike or go up for a while, and people are going to be running to the hospital. And it doesn't really bother me per se. I don't really get fearful until I see President Trump and Vice President Pence speaking. When I see them speak, I get worried, really worried. And the other thing is you got two problems. The virus is real. People are going to get sick. People are going to die. Most people may get it, may not even know they have it, and may not get a lot of symptoms like that. Who's that young man who's a basketball player? Rudy Gobert?
Yeah, Rudy Gobert, yeah.
I never even heard of him until you start touching the microphones and stuff. Like, whoa, look at this dude.
Yeah.
So, but the point is that we're going to get through this, hopefully. But this economic collapse, if these bars are shut down, because I'm in the gig economy, ain't nobody giving me nothing, man, unless the governor. What's his name? What's the governor's name?
Pritzker.
If JB give me some money, I'm cool, but I'm not getting anything. And most Americans can't come up with $400 for emergencies. I'm sort of one of them.
Yeah.
And so after a week or two of this, you're talking about another widespread panic and a coming economic collapse. And Trump and Mnuchin is giving money to the corporations, but they talking about this $1,000 check they might give them, some of that UBI that Andrew Yang talked about.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens, because if this lasts go on until April 2nd, April 5th or whatever, it's not going to be fun, people. Some Americans are doing just fine, but I don't know, 30-40% of us are really paycheck to paycheck. There's going to be some weeping. There could be some weeping and gnashing of teeth in a few weeks.
Yeah. Now, Mark, are you able to do any driving at all, or are you staying home?
Oh, you know what? I have to stay at home. I'm so, I wasn't really scared. It doesn't really bother me. I take a lot of vitamin C, people. I don't know how to really protect yourself other than doing vitamin C and some other things. And thank you.
Mueller.
Mr. Mother, no. It's some other stuff. I like doing to the conspiracy theory doctors, and they are serious, but you have to wash your hands. You got to boost your immune system if you have a compromise, or if you are an older American, like Benny J, over 60 years old, who talks a lot about his age and how old he is. Yeah. And I'm sort of glad you kept me away from the studio, because I don't want you getting my virus. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We got to watch out for our elderly talk show hosts. Like Benny J, over 60 years old.
Yeah. Jay Marie was teasing us, one of our listeners. I talk a lot about millennials, but in defense of millennials, they've been very gracious to me. Ben, you're older. Stay at home. Don't see anybody. Don't touch hands. Don't do anything. But yeah, no, it is disconcerting to hear you talk about this, Mark, because if you're not out there driving, you're not making money, you don't have the income, you can't pay the basic bills. I know a lot of people in a similar situation. My wife, she's she's a hairdresser. She has a beauty shop. That shop's closed, and nobody's giving us money. So that's the other obvious.
That is
scare.
the second punch. The first punch is coronavirus, is very real, but that second punch, is uppercut, could be this economic recession that we're in now, and could hopefully not an economic collapse. It's a 1-2 punch, and I don't know. It may take us a whole year to get through this.
Yeah, and that's why. See, this is what scares me about the way Donald Trump is handling it, and it's like I was talking about with Maya. There's been this. It's like an evolution of this country's attitude toward this threat. It's not something people took really serious at first. It was distant. It was like somebody made the joke. I can't remember. It was like Donald Trump's attitude was, well, there's an ocean between us and Asia. You get what I'm saying? So it's not coming to the United States. So we don't have to worry about, like, that ocean is going to protect us. And that's this notion. So people are going about their lives, watching sporting events, going to stadiums, going to bars, et cetera, and so forth. And now with, as the coronavirus becomes more real and hits us like within our cities, it's like here, and folks, their attitudes are slowly starting to change. And so I never got the sense that the people who are in charge on the federal level actually saw this as the threat it is. And like I said, I've been watching this evolution of them toward accepting it as a threat. And the same thing here on the local level, Mark. When I'm watching the squabble breaking out today between Pritzker and the Chicago Board of Election Commissioners over whether we should have had an election, I'm like, fellas, you should have been on the same page a week ago. You get what I'm saying? I just don't get the sense that there's leadership.
This thing is moving so fast, man. It's really fast. But before I get off this phone and your fine program, I want to talk about your buddy, Rahm Emanuel.
Okay.
Just humor me, because you go with this seriously, because what did Rahm say? Never waste a serious crisis, or never let a serious crisis go to waste. Never let a serious crisis go to waste. Yeah. And this is the kind of thing that people who are looking beyond, I know that it's going to be some weeping and gnashing of teeth for the next month or so, hopefully another couple of weeks, and that's it. But we need to figure out what we're going to do after this crisis, because we do need a stronger safety net, Medicare for all that want it. You know what I'm saying? We need UBI. This, a lot of folks who didn't vote for, I voted for Bernie Sanders for president, but a lot of folks didn't vote for Bernie Sanders. But we need Bernie Sanders. It's not so much Bernie Sanders, because Bernie Sanders may not be the nominee. The people need to be pushing these Bernie Sanders ideals and UBI ideals and Andrew Yang, all these ideals to build a stronger safety net and a stronger healthcare system. This is what we have to push for Mr. Biden as he tries to maybe go back to the center in August. Hopefully he'll move to the left, to the left, to the left, to the left. And hopefully this thing is over with, because I like your buddy David Seaton. David Seaton was on the show the other day.
Yeah.
He talked about the possibility that Trump can shut down, call a national emergency, and stop the election in November. So we hope this stuff really gets over in a week or two. Otherwise, we're headed for some really crazy time.
Well, that
crazier than it is now.
Yeah, crazier. David Seaton mentioned that in the interview that dropped this Sunday, and I know that Donald Trump should not have the capability to do that, and there would be a constitutional fight if he tried to do that. And that's part of the reason why I was reluctant to call off the election here in Illinois. Mark, it's sort of like setting a precedent to delaying elections, calling them off. I just wish that it had their act together more. But yeah, no, you're hitting on the head in terms of Biden and Bernie. I watched the debate on Sunday, and I'm glad to hear that you voted for Bernie. I really appreciate that. Did you vote for him last time, or did you vote for Hillary? I can't remember.
No, I voted for Bernie.
In 2016? Okay, I just can't remember. But the thing is this is what I saw in that debate on Sunday. I saw Joe Biden sort of vacillating between two factors. One was the old Joe Biden, who was saying that Bernie's ideas are impractical as he, Joe Biden, tried to position himself as a centrist to win the centrist vote and isolate Bernie as this extremist. And then I saw the new Joe Biden, who realizes he has to pick up some Bernie supporters and also realizes that if he's the president of the United States, to get us out of this mess, he's going to have to adopt some of Bernie's ideas. And he can't just write them off as extremists because they're needed in this country right now. So I'm watching Joe Biden struggle with all these things, stay true to himself. He's a little like me, Mark, in terms of whether I can't make up my mind whether we should have called off the election. You get what I'm saying? It's like blowing in the breeze a little bit. And so I'm hoping, this is why I voted for Bernie today. I really do. Well, I like Bernie, but I'm hoping that Bernie can push Joe Biden to the left.
We hope so. We'll talk about him picking a vice president long after this crisis is over. But, I wanted to be in the studio because I want to meet Henry Davis Jr. in the studio.
Yeah.
He's been my guest on my podcast, Just a Few Questions on YouTube.
Wait, what's that podcast called again?
Just a Few Questions. Mark Sims, Just a Few Questions on YouTube.
Okay.
Henry Davis is great. And I should just drive to South. I told him to go to South Bend and meet him in person. And also your buddy Sergio Mims just sent me a Facebook message, say, hi, everybody who's listening and watching. Hi, Ben. Hi, Dennis.
Oh, yeah. Sergio Mims was on the show Friday, and he was the one who made the prediction as to who Joe Biden would take as his running mate. And he then sent me another text today saying that his prediction that he made on Friday, he's not even standing by anymore. He has a new prediction. So I just like, Sergio, get out of the prediction game, all right?
Sergio, on my podcast, Sergio Mims said that Joe Biden's going to pick Warren for vice president, which is very cool if he did.
When did he say that?
That was a few weeks ago on my podcast.
Okay, he's blowing in the breeze. He's vacillating even more than I am in terms of whether we should...
But the governor of Michigan is a good pick. It doesn't matter. The trick about him is that Joe Biden has to be pushed to the left. He will want to go back to the center as normal candidates do, but we got to keep him to the left. And this crisis is, like Rahm Emanuel said, don't let this crisis go to waste. This is a really good time. And it's a terrible crisis, but it proves that we should move to the left of this country. To the left, to the left, to the left.
All right, listen, when I just happened to mention this in a column I wrote, when I quoted that Rahm saying that we should never let a good crisis go to waste. And then I pointed out that as mayor, the crisis that Rahm contended we were facing, so budgetary crisis, where he uses excuses to do things he shouldn't have done, like close schools, like close clinics, like go to regressive taxes that hit working people and middle-class people the hardest, poor people the hardest. So he used crises that were manufactured to come up with programs and proposals that nobody wanted in the first place. I'm hoping that the Democratic Party, and if Joe Biden is the head of the ticket, then Joe Biden and whoever his running mate is use this very real crisis to bring in some Bernie-style programs that they wouldn't ordinarily embrace. You know what I'm saying? So Medicare for all. Not Medicare for all who want it. Medicare for all you want, it just means the status quo. So some people have a good insurance plan. Some people don't have a good insurance plan. So that's what I'm hoping that people get real at this moment of crises, Mark Sims, and not go back to the same old games where they pretend that the problems aren't as severe as they are.
Well, it's up to the public. The public has to demand it. It's like Rahm. Rahm understands the masses. The masses don't vote. Most people don't vote in political elections like today and in November. They won't. So the masses have to demand it. Otherwise, the politicians like Joe Biden are not going to do it.
Yeah. By the way, let me just say this about election turnout. Maya and I were talking about this earlier, and she was saying the coronavirus is going to keep people from voting. I just want to point out there was no coronavirus in April of last year when we had a mayoral election and the turnout was 35%. There was no coronavirus in February when the turnout was in the mid-30s for the first round of the presidential. There was no coronavirus in 2018 when the turnout for the gubernatorial election was low. So election turnouts are low pretty much year after year, election after election, and there's no coronavirus to blame it on. I think there's a greater problem that people aren't inspired, people are alienated from the process, Mark Sims, and that's why they're not voting.
hopeless people don't vote. I post this video all the time on social media. It's from Tony Benn, the late great Tony Benn, MP, member of Parliament, if you will, from the Great Britain, and this is from the movie Sicko. The movie Sicko,
Yeah,
Michael Moore's
Moore.
movie, and he said hopeless people don't vote,
Yeah.
and they tend not to.
Hopeless people don't vote. So you're going to say who, as long as you're willing to say who you voted, who'd you vote for state's attorney?
I told you, Kim Fox, because she was cursing on your show. She was so good. She was so much better on your show than on the commercials. Like she said, she can't come out. I'm paraphrasing what she said.
Yeah.
She cannot come out as an angry black woman. And when you talk to your peeps in Lakeview, and they say, "Oh, what's the young man who's running with his daddy from
Bill Conway?"
Bill Conway. His commercials are good, but he's such a nice boy.
Yeah.
I've talked to people. Because I'm a social scientist too, and a lot of Chicagoans don't know anything about social justice or social justice reform, criminal justice reform. They don't understand that we shouldn't be locking up, small time offenders in jail, wasting all this taxpayer money. And so, but they care more. I'm serious. Just a little sampling. There's a people out here. I don't know if they're going to vote. I don't know if they're going to vote. They may stay at home. They care more about Juicy Smollett than criminal justice reform.
Yeah. Well, because it doesn't touch their life. And this is the point I was making. It's like when we started, going back to yesterday when I said, Mark, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going crazy sitting in the house. And you said, well, you're a lucky guy. You have the freedom to go outside and walk in your neighborhood because there's no one that's going to hit you over the head, or the likelihood of that happening is not going to deter you. It hasn't happened enough so that you're afraid to do it. And I thought a lot about what you said. I'm like, there's things I take for granted that I have that are just, I think everybody should have. But obviously, it varies neighborhood to neighborhood and community to community. And I think that's a perfect analogy, and I thank you for pointing that out to me, for the situation with Kim Fox. So, a North Side voter who is not likely to ever have any encounter with the criminal justice system, which was a North Side voter who was perfectly free to smoke reefer for the last 4 or 5 years without ever getting busted, never having to go and to be part of the criminal justice system, is free to take really seriously this manufactured crises, this manufactured scandal over Juicy Smollett. Do you follow what I'm saying? But you, on the other hand, cannot.
People, they think that, and then they'll tell me, well, Kim is corrupt. Juicy Smollett, come on, give me a break. I mean, he wasn't even supposed to go to jail. He should apologize, and they were all blown away, but he didn't because he's a goofball. But the point is that people don't understand the criminal justice system until they have family or friends or themselves been arrested by the police or had to go to jail or almost went to jail, whatever. And they had a good taste of the system. They wouldn't be so hung up on Juicy Smollett.
All right, Mark Sims, we're going to take a break.
Juicy Smollett, for those who don't know the joke.
Yeah, no, and Dave Chappelle joke. I urge everybody when they're not listening to the show to check out Dave Chappelle. Mark, hopefully this will pass, and the next time that you're on the show, we could be in the studio like the old times, and you could be sharing the cookies that you bring and the snacks that you bring.
I sure hope so, man. Because this thing, if I don't get back to work in a week or so, man, it's gonna get nasty in this country.
Well, I'm thinking what we're gonna do is check in with you from time to time to see how it's going, because absolutely, there has to be some kind of relief for folks like you in the gig economy who are depending on going out and driving people from point A to point B. And if they just shut down, if essentially nobody's taking...
There's freelancers, there's artists, there's musicians, there are bartenders. I heard about bartenders. Some bartenders are scared to go to the doctor because they don't have health care.
Yeah.
This is insane, people. So let's move Joe Biden to the left.
Move Joe Biden to the left. Thank you very much, Mark Sims. I'm glad you're on the left. And we have Henry Davis. We're going to bring him on when we return.
Actually, we're just going to call him up right now.
Oh, yeah. I love when you do this stuff. Okay.
Yeah, it's a different day here on the Ben Joravsky Show. Actually, okay, so we did Google through a Google call with Maya. We did a Facebook call with Mark. Let's just go for the trifecta and do a Skype with Henry Davis Jr. What do you say, Ben?
Sounds good, man.
All right, I'm going to tell him to call me on Skype, and we will see what happens. Mark, are you still there? Okay.
I don't know how. I don't even know how to cut the damn thing off. I gotta come in the house.
I'm trying to figure out how to cut it off too, man.
How to cut it. How do you work this?
I don't know. Just hit hang up.
Oh, I'll try to figure it out.
All right. So hopefully,
Hit hang up.
it's an interesting day today,
Yeah.
people. Let's go over to the live stream chat while we wait here. We got a few people weighing in here. How about Kyle? Kyle says, I don't think Biden wants to go back to the center. I think Biden wants to jab someone in the chest, call them Jack, and challenge them to a push-up contest. What do you think about that, Ben?
Well, I think that Joe Biden, that's like the colorful side of Joe Biden that I almost find entertaining. And it's part of the reason why Joe Biden was always one of my, he's always like lingering around fourth or third in my list or ranking of favorite candidates. Politically speaking, Joe Biden is too far to the right, in my humble opinion, from where this country should be right now, where the Democratic Party should be right now. So I am truly hoping that if only for pragmatic, practical reasons to get to bring over Bernie votes and also to recognize the dire straits that we're in, Joe Biden will move to the left. I do not believe he has some strong ideological opposition to the things that Bernie Sanders is calling for. I think it's rooted in just like most conventional thinking in the world. I'm hoping that's the case. I used to say that about Rahm all the time. I used to have arguments with my lefty friends about Rahm. I go, Rahm doesn't really have an ideology. Rahm is just looking out for what's in his best interest. And at the moment, he seems to think this middle-of-the-road conventional wisdom is the way to go. But if he thought differently, he would move left. I came to think that, no, Rahm actually came to believe this garbage he was espousing. I never saw him actually embrace anything remotely resembling a Bernie Sanders viewpoint. So I'm hoping that Joe Biden is more open-minded than Rahm Emanuel, less ideologically anchored in moderate Republican programs like Mitt Romney-style programs, and that he is open to something like a Medicare for all or paid sick leave. Paid sick leave, it's just devastating at this time of crucial need that we're struggling with which sector of the economy is going to get a guaranteed sick leave. Is this working, D?
It's Henry Davis. Let's see if we can get him.
All right.
Hello? Hello?
Dennis?
Hey,
Yeah.
What's up, Henry?
Finally got it, right?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
We're live on the air, man. How's it going?
It was the wrong one. All right, about yourself, brother.
I'm doing good. Well, I'm going to throw you on hold here. We're going to take a break. Ben's going
But I
to...
don't see you.
Oh, that's okay. That's fine.
Okay.
Face for radio. We're going to take a break. Ben's going to wash his hands. He's really old. He's got to take care of himself. And hey, come on now. We got to look out for old Benny J here, and we'll be right back. So hang tight, Henry.
Don't start that, man.
Don't go anywhere, everybody. We'll be right back. All right, it's voting day here in Illinois, and if you are on your way to the polls, first off, sanitize, social distance, watch yourself, and wash yourself. Also, if you're needing some info on some of the elections going on last minute, well, don't worry, we got your back. Chicago Readers Backroom Deal, Maya Dukmasova and Ben Joravsky. What they do is they provided you with 10 episodes. Each episode is a particular election going on in the Illinois primaries. Maybe you already voted. Still a good listen. You should listen to it anyway. But if you've yet to vote and you're still not sure on what to vote for, go download these podcasts, chicagoreader.com and wherever else you download your favorite podcast. Ben Joravsky is back. His hands are clean. Our host is taking care of himself. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Every break time, Dennis goes, get there, wash those hands. I don't know. We've scrubbed down every tabletop here. We even scrubbed the Harold Washington statue we have. And but yet, I'm dutifully washing hands. Everybody's worried about me because I'm so old. Henry Davis, are you on the phone?
Yeah, I'm here.
Are you here? Are you worried about me too? About being?
No, sir. I know you're going to take good care of yourself.
All right, very good. Henry Davis, this is his, I think, fourth visit to the show. First time not in the studio. I miss you, Henry.
Hey, man, same here. Same sentiments.
In the last couple of visits, you brought your dad. He never would speak. He would just sit here and just beam thoughts, which I kind of picked up on while he was sitting there. So I cannot wait till this crisis passes, and you and your dad will be back in the studio visiting with us.
Let's make it happen.
All right, let's make it happen. Let's talk about politics. As folks who are maybe hearing Henry for the first time have not heard him on the bonus segments, he is a councilman in South Bend, Indiana. Yes, the same town that produced Pete Buttigieg, Mayor Pete. Henry ran against Mayor Pete in 2015. Not the biggest fan of Mayor Pete and was not the biggest supporter, to put it mildly, of Mayor Pete's campaign, his presidential campaign, which, of course, ended a couple of weeks ago. Seems like ancient history. So, Henry, before we take the dive into the political issues of the day and talk about Biden versus Bernie, any final thoughts on Mayor Pete's presidential campaign?
It's over with. No, I mean, I really don't have too much more. I mean, it is over with. I was being, funny saying that. Don't know if that was poor taste or not, but it's absolutely over with. And the problem that we're having now is trying to figure out why is America so in love with the status quo as it relates to what Bernie is bringing to the table versus Biden. And, I don't know. I mean, you kind of wish that you still had some interference from other candidates so the conversation could continue to build. But at this point in time, it just seems like, I don't know. Farewell, Mayor Pete. I saw him on Jimmy Kimmel. Did you check him out?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I saw his opening bit. I did not see the interviews he did. Did you think he was funny?
No, I didn't. What happens is that they're trying to turn him into some sort of like, I don't know what you want to call it, but they're trying to produce a person that doesn't exist. He's not that funny, let alone being that personable. So it's probably be hard for him to translate from this well-read politician to this guy who can host talk show or late night talk shows.
Well, Henry, we were kind of inspired here on our show. We were going to ask you to host the Ben Joravsky show.
Well, I can make that happen, man. I have no problem with that. But see, I was a manufactured character on the public scene. I came in and I wanted to seek out change, and I think that I like to believe that I'm a real person. So yeah, let's make it happen, man. It probably be a lot more fun. I'll probably pull more ratings than Ben has.
Oh, there we go. Trash talking from South Bend, Indiana. Before we completely leave Pete behind, the issue that we always raise when we talked about his campaign with you is his inability to win over black support in his hometown, South Bend, Indiana, which is about 25% black. And so I think that hurt Pete more than anything else when it came to turning around and picking up black support outside of South Bend, Indiana, if you follow me. During the campaign, he was always polling low. And just on a practical level, I always thought the first thing he would have done is turn to someone like you and call and talk to you before he ran to try to smooth things out. I remember when Barack Obama was decided he was going to run for president in 2007, Henry, one of the first things he did was he cut a deal with Mayor Daley. They were not the closest of allies up until that point, but he figured he needed that support on the local level so that people wouldn't say, well, why isn't the mayor of your hometown for you? So do you follow what I'm saying, Henry? I would have thought that he would.
No, I mean, you usually try to go back and patch up any, bad relationships or tie up any loose ends before you try to move on to, higher levels, because some of those things that you may have stepped on or forgotten about or just turned a blind eye to could potentially hurt you later on. and then people always say, you never burn bridges because you may have to cross back over them. But look, that's what he chose to do. I mean, I would have done it, but then you want to talk about privilege at that point, and that he probably never had to do that and felt like that he didn't need to do it, so he wasn't going to do it. When you know better, you usually do better, and that's how I state things. If you know better, you usually do better.
All right. So since he left the stage, we have two candidates in the race. Obviously, Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden. Did you watch Sunday's debate by any chance?
Yeah, that was some boring stuff, man. I mean, look, no, I shouldn't say boring. I should say that was boring because you were looking at two guys who were like very old and very pale talk about the issues. A person like me who was more interested in actually that sort of conversation, not because of the visual, but because they were able to dig in without the interference of an audience clapping or cheering or doing things to excite each candidate. So what occurs is that a candidate will hear the crowd cheering, they're going to try to stick to those points. And so if you hear a crowd booing, obviously you're going to get away from those points. We actually had an opportunity to hear directly from those candidates without being excited or incited by an audience. So it actually helped to even hit the issues properly. It did. I think it did. I think they probably need to do that more.
Well, the point I've been raising, the point that I took away was, I believe that Joe Biden is going to be the Democratic nominee. I think that's pretty clear. But I believe that Bernie Sanders should stay in the race. I proudly voted for him today, Henry, because I feel it's incumbent upon the Democratic Party to have some kind of unity when they head into the election against Trump in terms of what their values are, what their principles are, what they're standing for. And what I saw coming into this one-on-one showdown between Bernie and Joe Biden was a divide in which the centrist element of the party was saying that Bernie's too extreme. I feel with the coronavirus scare in front of us, Bernie's ideas don't seem that extreme anymore. Do you think Joe will move left?
No, I mean he will not. He will not. He's still talking about marijuana as a gateway drug. I mean, this is the problem that we're having with American politics and these guys who will not relent or change their ways of doing business. He's interested in continuing the same status quo behavior that obviously kept him in office all of these years. So he probably feels like if it's not broke, don't fix it. But America is broken. America needs a revolution. The majority of America and Americans need better health care or need access to health care. They need better jobs. They need access to quality education that doesn't, bankrupt them. They need better public schools. So, if you're not interested in having those discussions, then obviously Joe Biden is completely against it for whatever reason, because he's just too busy, smiling and swearing that, he has a cure. We're going to get the same thing. And I think that's why you have an introduction of a Trump and why Trump continues to show himself to be strong in certain circles, because people are tired of that status quo stuff that Biden is pushing. Again, I'm not against Biden. I'm not in love with him. But I think Biden has a lot to be desired when it comes to how America looks right now and versus what it looked like 30, 40 years ago. I don't think that he's, up to 2020. I think he's probably back in the 1980s still or something, unfortunately.
Up until the South Carolina primary, Joe Biden was on the ropes. And as we talk about on the show, once black voters started voting, once states where black voters heavily reside in got their opportunity to participate, Joe Biden's career was resuscitated. Based on what you just said, I find it so ironic that it would be black voters that would come to the aid of Joe Biden and save his campaign. At the precise time you're saying what we need is somebody who's got a little bolder, more modern view of things. Were you surprised by the black support for Joe Biden? Do you think it...
No, I was disappointed. I wasn't surprised.
Mm-hmm.
I think last time I was on your show, I talked about this. I said something about black people being the biggest supporters or some of the strongest supporters of white supremacy. It sounds harsh, but it's the truth. I can't talk about the man walking on my back if I don't allow him to walk on my back. You understand what I'm saying? So we have to put ourselves in the equation as well. How do we perceive ourselves being a part of the problem or a part of the solution? And I don't think that many African Americans or black people perceive themselves as a part of either or. They think that they are just supposed to support candidates, or whether they've been supporting them for however many decades it's been, and everything will be A-okay. And then not only that, my time, in politics, I continue to hear people, and even to the current day, especially black people, talk about how they are going to do stuff. Not them themselves being they being some sort of extraterrestrial being is going to do this or do that. I keep hearing about how they are going to declare martial law because of this coronavirus, how they are going to declare these curfews, how they are going to make sure that we don't have any jobs anymore, how they are going to make sure that we're going to be in concentration camps at the end of this. And it drives me nuts to even believe and think that people are still on that they thing when they've had so many opportunities to get involved and to fight for what they need and to also get what they need. It's like that they, many of who I'm talking about, and it's African American voters, are only interested in being carried along versus carrying it along or changing it. It's scary.
You said something, a black people being the biggest supporter of white supremacy. Go into that a little more.
Well, it doesn't exist without it. We have to, in some way, shape, or form, be a part of that problem. Again, that they thing. You know what they go do if you... So, look, Henry Davis is in office. Henry Davis is quite aggressive for the people that voted him into office. Henry Davis is a black male who was very young compared to, the total field of candidates or representatives. So Henry Davis is out there pushing for the needs and support of his constituency base. Henry Davis is will and does not mind calling press conferences or writing into laws, new ordinances, or challenging the establishment. This is for people who voted me into office. At that very moment of me doing these things or working to get these things done or engaging my colleagues in getting these things done, you will have black people. I'm serious. You will have black people show up, or I will run to them in the grocery store or at the barbershop. Man, you know what they go do to you? They again. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, who are they? Who is they? First of all. Second of all, my job is to do these things. Well, Henry, man, you know what they do to us when we do those things. So it's this fear of they. They is, and it also equals the white supremacy thing that I was talking about. It's like permission has to be asked in order to do the job that you're supposed to be doing. And if you don't ask for permission from them or they, they or them will turn into the boogeyman and come and get you. And I just don't believe that. I can't operate like that, and nothing gets done if we do believe and operate in that paradigm with that frame of thought.
Fear of they. Do you think that's keeping voter turnout low? Fear of they?
No, what's keeping voter turnout low is apathy. apathy has turned is continuing to drop voter participation, because some people do participate and they really expect a little bit more out of the process, and they just quit because they're not getting the results that they're looking for. Now, they may have a problem with that, meaning I'm talking about the subject matter of they may play in part to people in their apathy. But I think the voter turnout being low is something that is continuing to be passed down. And so I just talked myself into a corner. You are right. That is the answer. They have allowed they to come in and tell them not to participate.
Oh,
you're completely right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the cornerstone of Donald Trump's campaign regarding black voters is to feed a sense of alienation and apathy and indifference. Like there's no difference between one or the other. In fact, the Democrats are so bad, they might as well just vote for me. I'm not promising you anything. I'm not going to do anything for you, but at least I'm not a Democrat. And that just leads people to say, well, it's hopeless, so I'm not going to vote for either candidate, Donald Trump or a Democrat. I'm just going to stay at home. So to feel it feeds a sense of hopelessness. I don't know. It's a fear. You're talking about a fear. Like if you participate in the process, something will happen to you. I don't know if it's a fear. I just have a sense my view of it is it's a sense of like alienation and hopelessness. That's how I view it, Henry.
Yeah, it runs together. I agree with you. It runs together. I can only speak for some of my experiences, and I see people and I've heard people have that idea of the fear thing happening. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, we're fresh off of, Jimmy Crow laws, or we're fresh off of some sort of plantation. And, these rules still apply, Henry. You can't really rock the boat like that because they're going to come and get you. And also what you just explained. So they're coupled. They run hand in hand. Mm-hmm. Probably it's not as much as the things that I'm talking about being fearful or scared, but those things do exist. Now the fear has actually turned into, well, they won't do it, or they are not going to do it, or the most classic one that I get is they are not going to allow you to do it, Henry.
Yeah, I hear that one too. People tell me that all the time, that I'm being too unrealistic in the things I advocate. And I heard that a lot in this campaign, Henry, in 2016 as well, about Bernie Sanders. It's unrealistic. You can't ask for free college tuition for public schools. That's too unrealistic. You can't ask for Medicare for all. It's too expensive. It's too unrealistic. You can't ask for paid sick leave. It's too unrealistic. You're not going to get it. I hear that constantly. And now we're in this crisis, and suddenly, we need it. Do you follow what I'm saying? Oh, wait.
Isn't that nuts? Isn't that just nuts? And I think people really forget that they are playing a part in what goes on. That's one of the other issues that I'm paying attention to, and I liken it to this discussion. I was talking to one of my buddies about a couple of weeks ago, actually, and we were talking about church, and we were talking about pastors and laymen in the church, and we were talking between that and also what the Bible speaks of, or what's written. And a lot of what was written is, they talk about some of the Sadducees and the Pharisees and how their religious dialogue in the context of their religious efforts were leading their people or their congregants into, these holes. And I was saying, well, yeah, but the Sadducees and the Pharisees and all these people that are in the Bible, does that translate into current day? And so we went back and forth about, the idea of it being current day. And I just bottom line it. I said, they're still talking about some of these pastors that we deal with. They're still talking about some of these laymen that we deal with. The Bible is almost like a timeless piece of literature that continues to avail itself to be very consistent of what happened during these times. And we can't keep divorcing ourselves or disassociating ourselves from what this is. We are a part of it. It's not them over there. It's all of us. You know, and Bernie's been very good about that. It's not what he says. It's not me. It's us.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to pick up this mantle and put on our superhero suits, strap our boots on, and we have to go to work. You know, we can't continue to make it seem like that our level of participation doesn't count or we're not a part of the movement. We have to, you know, be a part of the movement because we are in the movement. Whether it's moving or not, we are still a part of it. And it's not them over there, it's us. It's all of us.
I'm going to close by asking you a couple of coronavirus questions. You are you live in South Bend.
Multiple choice?
What's that?
A multiple choice?
Multiple choice. Oh no, it's not a test. I'm gonna ask you this. Donald Trump has turned things over to Mike Pence, his vice president, to sort of oversee the government's response to the coronavirus scare. Mike Pence, of course, used to be the governor of the state of Indiana, which is where you live. So as a resident of Indiana, as an elected official in Indiana, as a man who was born and raised in the state of Indiana, do you have renewed confidence in our government's ability to deal with this crisis, given the fact that Mike Pence is in charge?
That's a loaded question, Ben. How long do I get to answer that?
As long as you want.
Oh, man. No, I don't want that long, man. Give me about 10 seconds. No, I don't have a renewed sense of anything. It's more of the same. You know, yesterday, Jackie Walorski came, which is our congresswoman, came to South Bend, and she met us at the county city building to talk about all of these new federal monies and ideas that are being voted upon in D.C. To help support all of us during this pandemic. And she did not make me feel any more comfortable than I did before I showed up. You know, I'm glad that she was there and we were able to ask her questions. But no, I'm not. I do not feel any more comfortable. Nor am I any more fearful. I think I'm just a little bit more like, you know, more of the same. You know, you guys, you know, need to get together or get out the way. But no, I'm not scared. I just feel like, you know, it's just time for a change, a real change, not a status quo lateral move over. I'm actually interested in a change, a real change. I need to hear somebody talk about what this really means and what we are going to do to help satisfy the American public, not, you know, just some gibberish or some boilerplate answer that makes people stop asking questions because they're sick of you being very repetitive. So the answer is no.
Okay, and a final point. Joe Biden says he's going to pick a woman as his running mate. Is there anybody that you would recommend?
Who cares? That's the problem. Again, we're back at that identity politic thing. Now, I probably will catch some flack from my sister for saying it like that.
I know you are.
Because, but see, you know, this is where the road divides for me with some people. And I'm being completely honest. I am like so tired of a person being able to show up and say, hey, I'm going to pick a woman president. No. I'm going to pick a black woman as my VP candidate. And people go crazy. Now, you know, there's no vetting. There's no idea of who this person is. But as long as she shows up black in the VP, we're going to make sure we get invited into office. We're not talking about healthcare anymore. We're not talking about public education anymore. We're not talking about unarmed black men being killed by police. We're not talking about any of those things. We start talking about, once again, what that looks like. And that's a white guy that's well beyond his years talking about he's going to pick a black woman to be his running mate. I just saw that on Django a couple of weeks ago.
Wait a minute. All of a sudden you made that transition to Django.
No, I'm serious. I did. I said, look.
Yeah.
I did. It sounds crazy, but it's the truth. Turn Django on. And there's a scene, well, there's a few scenes on there, but there's a scene on there when these two black men are like these Mandingo warriors beating each other up to the death.
Yes.
Right, for their entertainment. And there's this pretty black woman over in the corner that is having her fun because she's allowed to drink and dress however she chooses to hang out with Candyman or for Candyland, the guy.
I actually,
Leonardo, you know the.
I
characters.
remember the scene. I know that I've seen the movie so many times.
It keeps playing back and forth. You keep having the same characters. And you almost used to say you change his faces or anything, but no, it's not really changing faces. You get to see the same thing over and over again. And I'm not asking for a hero. I'm not asking one to save me. I am saying, can we do better than what we've done for the last 200, 300, 400 years?
Mm-hmm.
Can we do anything different?
Yeah.
And can we do better?
Yeah. By the way,
it's blowing my mind. Why can't that black woman be the president? Is the question I ask.
Yeah.
Why does she have to be vice president? He's better off going to finding a white man that's in his 90s and bringing him in as the vice president.
But let me just make this. Joe Biden did not say he was going to pick a black woman. He just said a woman. Okay, so he didn't say black
all
woman.
The other reports are saying black woman. Stacey Abrams, Georgia. And then this lady that's from Florida who's a congresswoman.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember her name
Val
right
Demings.
now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and so she's like a law and order person.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about this. And it's not funny. It's almost insane. Yes, I would love to see diversity at that level. Yes, I would love to see a black woman president of the United States of America. But you know what I want to see most? I want to see a leader that has a heart for the people of America. That's what I want to see.
Well, that's why I urge Joe Biden to move left on his policies. I believe that's the way to go. I never viewed the black vote for Joe Biden as a vote against Bernie Sanders' policies. And this is an argument I've had with many guests who've come on this show, Henry. Some of my guests come on the show and say, Ben, you don't understand. Black people are too pragmatic. They don't believe in these kind of policies. They think they'll never be achieved. So they're.
But that's true. We're a very conservative demographic, and that's why the idea of African Americans being in the Democratic Party doesn't really make sense. That's why you will hear, when it's time for, the Republican side to talk about it, well, Martin Luther King Jr. was a Republican. So, and as those things may be as true as the day is 24 hours long, the African Americans are a very conservative group of voters, and they're not only so conservative, but they use their religious context and also influence and also their Jesus to define how they move about. I'm not saying there's something wrong with that. Believe me, I'm not.
I know what you're saying.
I'm just talking about that voter.
Yeah, that's a certain segment that you're alluding to, and I always say this. I've used this line a dozen times. I'll use it a dozen times more. In 1988, Jesse Louis Jackson ran for president on a platform that was Bernie before Bernie. And he got the overwhelming support of black voters. So it's not like black voters all of a sudden became middle-of-the-road centrists. There's been political transformations that have occurred in this country where the Democratic Party as a whole has signed on to these centrist points of view and sold it to its constituents as the way to win an election. And people buy into this. And so in many cases, they support policies that they don't even like because they think it's the way to win. And I think it's a trick bag that the Democrats have gotten themselves in. And I wish they could break free of it. But I think that's the game that's happening right now, Henry.
Well, and man, look, you're right. There's a game there. I just think that there's a spirit that rules over the people that I represent. And it's taken some time for us to overcome it. It's taken us quite some time to overcome it. And time is moving very fast now. So we're going to have to figure it out and wake up and start fighting again. Because if we don't, we're going to be, we won't even be back at the bus. We'll be off the bus.
Very well put. Henry Davis, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. I'm disappointed that you could not be in the studio.
Well, you told me I couldn't come.
What's that?
You said,
I know.
The corona. You didn't want me to bring the corona in your office.
Well, the beer, not the virus. For the record, Henry was willing to come. He's young. He feels strong, and he feels unbeatable. But I was one who said, nope, stay in South Bend. Let's let this crisis pass. We'll bring you back when it's safer. That's what I. So
no, I appreciate that, and we have to be cognizant of what's happening, what's going on, and not be reckless with our time and who we are. No, I believe that. I'm just poking fun.
I know you're making fun of me. And next time he comes in, he's going to bring his dad, and we're going to put his dad on the microphone and hear what he has to say.
Well, my dad just can come, and I'll just sit. I'll go down the street to the local pub, and I'll, he can take over.
All right, very good. Henry Davis Jr., thank you so much. I appreciate it. I want to thank Marc Sims and Maya, and, of course, the man, the myth, the legend who got us sued today, Dr. D.
Before we get out of here, let's go to the live stream chat here.
Okay.
We want to remind everybody as well. First off, we did it.
Yeah, we did, man.
3
that
calls.
Was unbelievable.
I think the Facebook was the best so far, but Marc had a microphone hooked up, so we're going to see how it goes. We're going to try. But we did all 3 there, Google, Facebook, and Skype. Shout out to Henry, Marc, and Maya.
Wait, which one was Maya on? I can't remember.
She was on Google.
Google.
Okay.
I'm not feeling Google. Google, come on, up your game, okay?
We're going to try Facebook tomorrow. Shout out to everybody who's on the live stream chat. If you're listening to this right now and you haven't hit like, all right? Turns out that's pretty helpful to us. So hit like. I see 32 people watching and only 8 likes. Come on. 32 likes. Let's see here. This happened, I think, before as I was cleaning up the studio. Following comes from thehill.com. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said today that the Trump administration wants to send checks to Americans in the next 2 weeks in order to address the economic impact of the coronavirus outbreak. Here's the quote from Mnuchin. Quote, "You think of this as something like business interruption payments for the American workers."
Yeah, well, obviously it's needed. And it's interesting. Listen. The government has to respond. This is a crisis. Marc Sims talked about it. People like him, they have no livelihood when the economy shuts down. Folks aren't taking Ubers or Lyfts. And so they need help. We can't just let a huge segment of our population just fall off the face of the earth. And so, yes, this has to be done. It's just, I have to tell you, D, the fact that it just took us this long to get to this point is very frustrating. On the local level, the fact that our governor and our Board of Election Commissioners are squabbling over who did what and who didn't do what with this election shows they're not on the same page. So it doesn't give me a lot of tremendous confidence that the folks are working together to get us through this. And by the way, it'll be really curious to see whether they get the Republicans are great at things like tax breaks for wealthy people. Are they great at something like paid leave? Paid leave is a necessity even when we don't have the coronavirus. So I'm a little hesitant to jump on the bandwagon and start cheering the Republicans on.
And it looks like Amazon just gave an update as well. Let me check that before we roll out.
They're hiring more people?
No, actually, the opposite. They said they're hiring more people. Then, all of a sudden, it says here they're suspending delivery of non-household items and medical products immediately. So it looks like Amazon is on delay as well. And we want to remind everybody one more time that we're going to be doing You Can't Spell Quarantine Without Q&A special. Question and answer. That's what we're trying to do here. Feel free to go to find us on email, BennyJShow@gmail.com. Reach out to us. Send us a question, comment, complaint, a picture, audio. It could be a word. Doesn't have to be a real word. It could be anything. Just send it our way, and we will read it for our Benny J. You Can't Spell Quarantine Without Q&A special. BennyJShow@gmail.com. BENNY, the letter J, show@gmail.com.
All right, very good. And as I was saying, I want to thank the man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of Alton, Illinois, without whom this show would not be possible, particularly today when we had to deal with phone calls. Good God. We'll get over it. There's no one in the studio to turn to. Usually I turn to, I'll pretend Henry Davis is sitting right there. Henry
Chop
Davis.
liver today, ladies and gentlemen.
Henry Davis, as you know, back home in Alton. They call them white lightning. Give yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
Hey, and remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows and Benny J bonus interviews at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites and wherever else you download your favorite podcast. Seriously, Benny J Show at gmail.com. Hit us up, send us your questions, comments, or whatever, and we will record a Q&A special. Downloaders, we live stream this program Tuesdays through Fridays, 1 until 3 p.m. Central Time. Come hell or high water, all right? At both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites and the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel. We will see you tomorrow.
Play the radio. Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night. The phone. Make sure the kids hear words.
That's correct.